Hello everyone, I'm Bruce, co-initiator of ETHPanda. So welcome to join our ETHPanda Talk today. And ETHPanda Talk is a podcast about building a better digital future on Ethereum. We invite leading Ethereum builders to share why they joined, what they are building, and what they have learned. Also, how they see the future. By digging into their stories and ideas, we aim to offer new perspectives and spark inspiration, so more people get involved and help move Ethereum forward. So today we are more than happy to have Tomasz here to talk about his personal growth, Ethereum Foundation, and the protocol AI on Ethereum. So welcome to Shanghai. Welcome to join us today.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Wow, nice. So could you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Tomasz. I joined Ethereum Foundation this March as a co-executive director alongside Wang Hsiao-Wei. And before that, for 8 years, I've been building a company called Nethermind that I founded in 2017. So Nethermind is a core development and infrastructure company that has been very, very focused on Ethereum for all the time. I at the beginning was directly involved in the implementation, engineering of the Ethereum client implementation, the Nethermind. Nowadays it's around 25% or 30% of the mainnet network that is running on top of Nethermind client software. So really something that we've been proud of. A long time before that. So I was in traditional finance. I was at Citibank on the FX technology side at the investment bank in London. And after that also for slightly longer than a year at the hedge fund called Rocco's Capital in London. So there's a story at the Ethereum Foundation last 6 months as trying to introduce changes without breaking things that work well. And lots of stories that I carry in Ethereum, both from the Nethermind side and the Ethereum Foundation. I think at Nethermind side, historically, we brought a lot of people to the ecosystem. So I think I've seen that journey many times, my own, but also journey of many interns that were at Nethermind. So they would join for 3 months, and we had around 600 people over 3 or 4 years that went through Nethermind, learning, and then often starting their own companies or contributing to major projects in the Ethereum ecosystem. It was great to see all of those journeys. And similarly, I think Ethereum Foundation has the Protocol Fellowship Program that invites a lot of new researchers to the Ethereum ecosystem. And actually, the two are similar in size, headcount-wise, like just over 200 people.
Wow, yeah, that's nice. So before joining Ethereum Foundation, and founding Nethermind, what pulled you into the Ethereum core development?
Well, curiosity. I definitely wanted to get into Ethereum. At the beginning, I wanted to build software for executing transactions on chain by myself, and practically to build software for myself. And then I started to read Yellow Paper just to understand how exactly Ethereum works. And I started implementing Yellow Paper aspects like EVM. I just started playing with EVM, and when you start, it's hard to stop. So it suddenly ended up being a 3-year project for me to implement everything. Well, we had a working client after a year or so, but I started independently, bootstrapped the company. After a few months, Grzegorz joined me for a while, for a year or two, to build alongside me. And it ended up being just core development, but it was not meant to be at the beginning. It was meant to be application building. I know there's something super exciting with core development. If you're into this, you just feel the satisfaction and some kind of pride in building the client implementation, the protocol itself. You start to feel like, okay, yeah, I can build Ethereum. I'm part of this. And it's not that you're part of the group of people. You just really feel like you're part of the protocol in a way. I was building on my own, mostly without getting in touch with the other core developers, out of ignorance. I simply didn't know how to really get in touch. I didn't know it was as simple as sending an email or a tweet or something. So it's core development stories, not necessarily it's a very clear path that someone tells you this is how you go. Sometimes you just discover it yourself in an open source and permissionless platform. I think this is very possible.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I also hear like you bootstrapping and taking no VC money at the beginning for Nethermind. So do you think like what were the advantages and the challenges of all of this?
I tried, like it's not that I wanted to go without any funding. I had some imagination of how you start companies. I've heard that, well, you potentially should fundraise. So I started reaching out to VCs, but it was very not well done, like not well organized. Nowadays, when I work with founders, I know exactly what the process is, right? Like if you work with founders that are asking you, how do I raise money? You tell them like you find a problem, you find a solution, you prepare the pitch deck, this is how you reach out, you have to have the momentum. And so there's lots of aspects, but it's pretty standard. And then depending on the type of idea, like whether you're in the right place with the right problem solution, then it goes very well. And otherwise you maybe struggle a bit more. In my case, it was very disorganized. I was building core development solution, like the client implementation. I had some other ideas of how to build monetization on the side of it. I had a vision for a few years that was really grandiose in a way, the deliver client for hedge funds of the future that will run Ethereum clients in their like on-premise for themselves. And in 2017, it was not something that many people were thinking of, or there is something funnier. I assumed that others would not see that. Only me who understands that. And because I talked to a few people and they felt like, oh, how you will ever get there? Oh, you're by yourself. It's really hard. Why do you build client? This will never monetize. And you hear it and you kind of feel, okay, you really believe in it. Yeah. And nowadays, when you look at what I wrote there in a like piece of paper, it's kind of exactly describes what Nethermind is nowadays. Like it does work with the large financial institutions, with hedge funds. They do run clients on premise for themselves to extract data, RPC, to send transactions and so on. But at that time, I thought like, okay, only I can see it and I cannot convince others because I'm on my own, because I don't have like credentials of the top university, and I don't know how to do this fundraise, and I don't want to prove people right by talking to them. I want to prove people wrong that's by building something. Yeah. And I think many new builders feel like this, but this is a very tough journey. I struggled for a long time with this, so luckily I had money to bootstrap the business, right? So I worked in well-paid positions in banking and hedge fund. So I was not in a position of a founder that really feels like if I don't raise money, there's nowhere to go. But it was tough because the moment when you start hiring people, then the money disappears super fast. I think that the solo founder without any like going entirely by themselves and without hiring someone, you can almost like stop eating. You can move to a country where you barely spend on yourself, and then it's really cheap. But when you hire a person, then it's like it's totally different. You start asking for that monthly payment, and that's when it becomes stressful. And many founders, they immediately hire. And now many founders who are, for example, not technical, they have to hire like the developers, engineers at the beginning. So you have to have a bit of everything to just decrease the costs if you want to do the bootstrap. There are some advantages, as I think I didn't know how to do the things at that time. If I raised the money, I would probably waste a lot of that money, and maybe it would be a failure, and it would be very painful failure, probably much more painful than just like proving yourself every day when you just struggle with yourself and not someone else asking you what happens to my money. Yeah, I think that was a huge benefit of it, that you're just responsible in front of yourself and you're very harsh for yourself, obviously. It's tough enough, but it's better pressure than someone showing you that they're disappointed.
Wow, that's cool. So how many people in Nethermind at the beginning?
Nowadays, I don't remember exactly. It was 1.5 years. We applied for one of the first Ethereum Foundation grants program. And we got $50,000, and that's when I hired the first person properly, because Grzegorz joined kind of as a founding engineer, co-founder. He stayed for a year, and then left, but we are in a super good relationship nowadays. We met, like, funny enough, I never met him in person until like 3 or 4 years later. So the beginning was like working remotely, and the first hire was probably after 1.5 years.
Wow, yeah. I think that's a good strategy, So especially we have AI agent, coding agent now, we can build something faster with a smaller,
I think it's possible, with lots of experience in engineering, at least know how to build what they want to build. Then very often this is safe journey, because it allows you to, at the same time, you try to maybe learn the business part of it. But look, I had much of the theoretical background. So I had practically the master's degree in the computer science and 10 or 15 years of experience of building large systems for financial institutions. And I also went through 5 years of the master's degree for the business administration. And while at Citibank, I also learned much more about corporate governance, accounting, and so on. So it really covered almost all aspects of running the business. And marketing. I studied like business administration, marketing, and it was like, this CFA is like 3 years of learning a lot of accounting and governance and ethics and legal and so on, and financial instruments. So this was good enough preparation to not be totally overwhelmed. And still, I felt overwhelmed because there were so many things that were practical. Like you start on the day one, and I think my first failure was within the 10 or 15 minutes of starting the company. So I went to like register a company. Luckily, this is in UK. So in UK, it's very easy. You start it in like 5 minutes. You register, you pay $10 as pounds, and you have the company. And for the next year, you don't have to file any paperwork. Everything is fine. That's beautiful. I actually recommended some of the founders, like, this is very counterintuitive, but go to like places like Hong Kong or UK and just start a company because it's the easiest and you don't pay taxes for a while. And then I applied for the bank account, and it's 2017, and they ask you like, why do you want to open a bank account? And I wrote everything that I could imagine that you could do in running a blockchain company. And I got a refusal very quickly, like within a few minutes. And it was a bit like, we'll not open a bank account for you. Don't ask us why. Don't contact us again. And it was like, for the next 3 years, I think we were running this Nethermind without the bank account. We were doing everything from my like private bank accounts, and so it was possible.
Yeah. So for Nethermind, for the many years of development. So what were the key milestones? Do you think I think maybe receive EF grants is one. Do you have other milestones?
I think there were a few. So definitely the EF grant was important because maybe connecting with the London community was super important, and role of Antonio Sabado nowadays is Chief Growth Officer at Nethermind, and he helped me a lot to integrate with the community in London, encouraged me to run workshops on EVM, to share the knowledge, he told me to start a Twitter account that I didn't have at the time for a year, and so on. So this was big. And then he was also the one person who told me, you should apply for a grant for Ethereum Foundation. I said, me? No, I don't deserve it. I'm for sure they will not agree. And then later, I think, obviously, when we first time deployed Nethermind and it just could sync Ethereum mainnet, it was super nice moments. You're proud of this. You delivered a big piece of software that you feel is like your child, and it's a big milestone. And then I think for the business part, starting to feel successful as a business, it was, the sad event, which is COVID. But when COVID started, many people around the world went online and started playing games, started experimenting with crypto, started just having a lot of time, and had to execute also all the payments online because there was no, everyone had deliveries and so on. So the economy changed. And also because the business was all remote, I think that our business was already prepared to how to run it in this environment when you couldn't meet face to face. And all the other businesses were for a while, probably they were lost because they had to reinvent how they design the office, in the digital space. So it was critical because immediately much more money started flowing into the blockchain solutions, and in like the on-chain payments and so on. And it brought a lot of attention to Nethermind and started bringing contracts. Even before that, I think the first contract with XDAI network at that time was super important. It was the first paying client that wanted to say like, we want to use Nethermind, and could you please like provide some extensions? This is, you know, a milestone when you have your first paying customer. Yeah, I think, and later there was like so many different things, but obviously it was accelerating. Like around the COVID times, everything started accelerating. There was lots of applications on Ethereum that were extremely successful. There was lots of money flowing in for additional investments. People had to build very fast, and they were reaching out for any developers with experience. And by that time, we had like three years of experience building everything on the protocol.
Yeah. So if you have the opportunity to jump back like 7 to 8 years ago and give yourself like younger version of yourself, like 1 or 2 sentences.
There are a few classic answers to this one. Like the first one is I would tell myself, don't do it. Because there's like this first 3 years now, you know, I may smile, but they're extremely draining and like mentally exhausting. And you seriously doubt yourself, and it's tough. And I think that maybe I could have avoided that experience. So even if now, obviously, there's lots of super cool things happening by building on Ethereum, being part of Ethereum ecosystem. Still, like when you're responsible for yourself 8 years ago, then you think about that person and you feel, you know, like maybe stay naive, maybe stay unaware of everything and just continue standard life. This seems very, very fair answer. Like they're caring about another person, the younger yourself. The other answer is that probably it's not reasonable to give any other advice than just stay quiet. You know, giving advice to people, it's really hard to predict different paths. You know your path, and then you think maybe I did something different would be better, but maybe it would be much worse.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So you are now joining Ethereum Foundation as a core executive, working with Hsiao-Wei Wang. So I'm wondering, like, how do you and Hsiao-Wei Wang split responsibilities in Ethereum Foundation?
Sure. So we agreed at the beginning that we'll be picking up whatever is there to be done, whoever picks it up first. I think it gives it solves two problems. One is that instead of working as a collective, like two people that have to take decisions together, you just need one decision from any person, and it should move faster than instead of slower than the one executive director. The second thing is it automatically assigns kind of tasks that you prefer to work on, because everyone picks what they feel more comfortable picking up. And then after a while, I kind of feel like we have clear split where I'm doing much more of the external communications, podcasts, Twitter, but then Hsiao-Wei is doing Farcaster, and then she does a lot of internal like comms and talking to people and operations, and we work together on the like new compensation policies. She picked up a lot of treasury and DeFi aspects. And then we exchange the views every now and then, but very often we operate very independently. Sometimes we focus on different regions depending on who is where, and then we can have speaking opportunities. There are probably a few other things, but then I forget. And in the future, maybe we'll switch. Maybe I'll get a bit tired of the communications and need to focus on the internal things. Maybe Hsiao-Wei will start talking more to everyone, or maybe we'll never change it. And
wow.
Yeah, but it's a good collaboration.
Yeah, I can see they like collaborate very well. In this year, EF released their 3 main goals, like scale L1, scale blobs, improve UX. So after like a half a year, many months ago later, so what do you think, which goal is the most challenging to work on now, and why?
Which goal is most challenging? Well, you would have to ask people that specifically work on those goals. I think that interop UX is the broadest, and because of that, it feels like the most challenging to answer questions when exactly you achieved all the goals or not, because it was the one that was hardest to quantify. On the scale 1, scale 2, we could have said, we said something like L1 will will be 100 million gas per block, and then it will be 300 million gas per block. So we have specific goals, and people started going there. It helps a lot. On the L2, it was slightly less clear. I mean, we knew that we'll go to the blob scaling, and we'll be accelerating the Fusaka release with 120 hit blobs, and then further. And I think that question about further of how we go to the two-dimensional peer DAOs, this is less clear, but I think that it's worth to talk to Alex Stokes and all the researchers and engineers at the foundation and core developers on what the next steps would be. I've talked to Vitalik recently about this plan for blob scaling, and I think he has very clear roadmap for all of this. So maybe that's why I say that's not the most challenging, but the data availability concept in general is a big thing. It's how to do it right and how to make it competitive, but also properly decentralized, properly secure. Interop UX. So we have now the two major deliveries proposals: the OIF, the Open Intents Framework. And I think recently there was a very nice big summary from Josh Rudolph about everything that we've done there in the ecosystem. I think that the last part is most of the coordination of the non-client teams, non-core development teams, but more like tooling teams, some of the researcher work, much of project program management. And the UX Interop side beyond that, so there is EIL, and this is coming from the AA team. That's Yoav Weiss and Marisa Posner and their team. And this will be properly announced during DEF Connect. Okay. And then the question will be, is it, because it wasn't quantified, that this means that we delivered an improved Interop and UX. So some people will tell you, oh, Interop is actually working fine. Some other people will say Interop is the major issue. Some people keep saying, oh, UX requires fixing, but then maybe different people have different views on what the UX is. Because UX, you can interpret it very broadly. You can say, oh, it's security, oh, it's privacy, or it's performance, it's latency, or it's UX for retail users or for institutional users, or it's wallets that you have, and so on and so on. Yeah. So that's why it's maybe the most challenging, the hardest to define of what success means there, and define it in a way that everyone else will agree with you.
So we both know that layer 2s are also a critical part of Ethereum, but the interoperability is still hard. So what are the biggest blockers to the full layer 2 interoperability today? And how are you working with layer 2 community to address that?
There are multiple questions here. So when you have layer 2s that are EVM layer 2s, then you have much of the compatibility, interoperability between protocols that is a bit easier. Then there are questions about the security of the bridging and how permissionless the bridges are. Within the interoperability, how much of the properties of the L1 chain you're preserving, as the permissionlessness, censorship resistance, and so on. So can you bridge the assets without relying on the third party? And this is a big challenge, because so far, when you look at OIF, many of the solutions under OIF do not really satisfy all of those requirements. The existing bridges very often do not satisfy those requirements, and then you have those trade-offs where you have better UX, but then you suddenly hiding all of the security issues. Then within the EIL, you'll be trying to answer questions about how to do all of this without the third party and permissionlessly. And what are the big features? So big challenges in the interoperability, the address representation, things like availability of exactly the same tooling and applications on different chains. So things like multisigs, the representation of the stable coins, maybe the experience of wallet displaying practically the same asset bridged into different chains, and then you have all the different assets. So within the Kohaku wallet, Kohaku Wallet SDK, we've delivered many suggestions. So how to represent addresses consistently, how to represent assets in a consistent way. So it does feel like one chain, because that's the goal that we set. It should feel like one chain. That's a big challenge. There's so many small things here.
Yeah. From my experience, I thought like a layer 2 interoperability is more than a technical challenge. I also see like maybe they have some interest.
I mentioned that multiple times as well, that interoperability starts with people, and the way that you start becoming interoperable if people talk to each other, if they want to integrate the systems, if they don't want to create the modes and the isolation of the chains. And sometimes for business reasons, the L2 operators might be feeling less willing to collaborate. So this is also something that we set as a goal for ourselves, to help the entire L2, L1 ecosystem to work closer with each other. Like one of the latest proposals is to bring engineers and researchers from all the L2s to one location next year. This comes as a feedback from some of the engineers that said that last year they had this meeting in Bangkok, and it was L2 engineers, and for the first time, at the beginning I couldn't understand the feedback because they said, like the core developers, they never meet with each other. And I said, like, what do you mean? Like, we always meet each other like every year, and we have lots of meetings. And then after talking, I realized that he was talking about L2s. The L2 core developers never meet with each other.
Yeah.
And I realized, indeed, it's like all the L1 clients, they meet regularly, but the L2 is not. So we will try to facilitate that. And funny enough, like people say, L2 engineers, they always want to work with each other. They always want interoperability. And they just like totally ignore the business people that try to create those modes. And when you start talking to like strategists and business people, they understand the challenges of like setting up your own branding and position and the competitive landscape. And then it's harder, right? So they will feel maybe we shouldn't. But when you talk to engineers directly, they're just like always work together because they just want to solve problems.
Cool. Yeah. So looking ahead, so what are like EF upcoming priorities, like and strategy for increasing community engagement and external collaboration?
Yeah. So obviously EF is so many different things. So there is security protocol, like upgrades, testing, coordination. So big part of the goals to look at the protocol and try to guess from all the conversations with the ecosystem people, like whether it's cypherpunks or large institutions, like you want to hear feedback, what's needed, and then communicate that to all core devs and help to coordinate in that direction by just focusing research and so on. All of this without ever sounding like you really impose the direction too much. It's interesting balance. Like you want to be a coordinator, you want to analyze and understand where you should go. You want to tell people where you think you should go, but at the same time, you shouldn't tell people that's where we go. And I think all core devs is like very opinionated group of people, very experienced and meritocratic group of people. So they'll feel if you're wrong. So you cannot be wrong. It's this is part of the Ethereum Foundation thinking about its goals, right? So to help to identify that thing. So when you talk about it, everyone thinks, oh yeah, indeed. Oh, whoever I talk as well, they agree with that. So you don't have this disagreement between what you announce that you think that the entire ecosystem wants and what other people hear, because then it means, who did you talk to? So the goals, when we set them for like scale 1, scale 2, and interop UX, there was big enough agreement on all of this that we were able to go in that direction, all of us together. And now we start talking about the next goals for next year. And I started suggesting that maybe we should say finality, privacy, security. But once again, people said, security, privacy is a default thing. We'll go there anyway. Yeah. And then I've heard from Dankrat, who said, well, I think that we should continue the scale 1 thing because we haven't finished that. And this will be 1 more year journey, which we in the past said that it will be 2-year journey, like to go to 300 million gas per block. And then we in the process of discussing it, like how well we understood all the feedback from the ecosystem. So we can finally said that is for the all core devs, that's what we think we understood, and what researchers think, what all the users think, all the DeFi builders think, and so on.
Yeah.
So these are the goals for the next year is now the exploration. But I think finality is a big part of it. So many institutions and L2s and users said we want maybe like shorter block times and faster finality. And there are some really nice proposals here. And then maybe we'll continue with scaling narrative and it'll be simpler. Or maybe we just define a bit of this security and privacy programs. Or maybe we don't have to because those programs happen anyway. We have the privacy cluster outside of the protocol team. There's a privacy cluster of 50 people and they have very clear roadmap for the privacy solutions. And the privacy for institutions is something that we continuously get as a feedback that this is a must. And by privacy for institution, I mean usually standards and explorations of how to use existing solutions on Ethereum to deliver some particular use cases. You asked me about how to engage more, how to build up community, engage community. So on ecosystem development, we've had lots of changes to this structure and the way we operate. So James Smith built fantastic team, or rebuild the fantastic team for founder success, for the developer education and the acceleration of the enterprises adoption of the Ethereum and reaching out to universities and Ethereum Everywhere team. So we can work with the physical spaces like the hubs, the meetups and events. We've changed the approach to grants. So we almost like entirely removed financial grants, like just paying to people and not asking anything and saying, yeah, like you can build it. Instead, we prefer to help by just coordinating, introducing, amplifying the message. We activated a lot in our like social media accounts, the visibility, PR. We talk more in the events so we can say, well, things are happening here. And we can say like things are happening in Shanghai. Yeah. Things are happening in Shenzhen, things are happening in Hong Kong. And we're starting a hub in Hong Kong for people to meet together regularly between founders and academia and so on. And we start collaborating with PolyU in Hong Kong. And we are here in all these places. And this is like type of message that we want to just continuously repeat and keep asking like, what else can we help with? Because it has to be your journey and you have to be independent when building communities. Because probably it will make you more entrepreneurial, and that's what you want to also teach other people to be. Like core developers are kind of entrepreneurial because they are very independent figures and deliver, but also the application builders are obviously entrepreneurial because they launch startups and applications. So I think that this approach to community where you force people into this mode when they have to think about everything, but naturally engage a bit like their customer might be better. This will be the effort, like to keep opening these physical hubs, but in collaboration with people that have also other arrangements that allow them to justify bringing sponsors. Like we can help to bring sponsors from the ecosystem as well. So maybe the sponsorship is combined between L2s, between applications. We can tell them, look, this event is specifically good for your goals. So maybe here you're a customer, or this community does something that's specifically solving your problems. So work with them longer term. Sometimes we'll be directly customer, but it'll be rare, less often than in the past.
Yeah, I can see there are many like local community hub growing and showing up. Yeah, that's great. So we talked about your personal growth and Nethermind, EF and protocol. So let's move on our like AI on Ethereum topic, which is a very frontier like topic. I saw a lot of people say like AI doesn't need Web3, but Web3 is just a riding AI hype. So what do you think about this?
For many AI businesses, Web3 is that security aspect, the slowing down aspect, and defensive of decentralization aspect, where they are now burdened with being extremely competitive with each other and having to deliver the results, revenue, and faster models and better models. So do they need Web3? As soon as they discover mechanisms that they can use for convincing more users to use their products, which always comes with like how many users are asking for the privacy and verification deliveries. So it will be coming. I think it's a bit like in any other industry that we like Web3 touched in the past. it feels like 5 or 10% of that industry really requires some of the trustless delivery, where it can rely on the existing trust, that's fine. But then as the assets are going more and more on-chain, digital, becoming digital, that's when Web3 becomes the default. And I think on AI, maybe that process will be happening faster because agents are digital and they will use digital assets from day one. And that integration of digital payments, Web3 payments with agents probably would drive majority of that's where AI will need Web3. It has been our dream for a long time, that people just use blockchain without talking about blockchain, or talking about Web3. Those aspects of verification of agents, verification of training, the decentralized training, those might be slower. It might be always some kind of edge cases. I think that, we're talking very often about verifications, like what is reality, what is truth. But what sells is not always truth, right? When we buy entertainment, when we buy stories, we're actually buying the lies, lies in a positive sense. We're asking for a nice story to tell, not because we want to learn what the facts were, what the events were, but we want to be entertained. And I think big part of media is like this as well, like even the news delivery for many news media, they know that they deliver partially entertainment or mostly entertainment. There's some facts that serve only as a canvas for building the story and for attracting your attention and building emotions. Do people then, when they reach for AI to generate things, to tell them the stories about the news from the world, to learn about the world, will the people ask for verification or for truth, or maybe they don't care that much? But then when you have institutional, enterprise aspect, when you buy the data, when you want to learn about the truth, then you'll need Web3 more and more and more. Because, I repeat it, we had fake news, now we have fake realities, really. You can have the entire set of news, the news feed on Twitter or whatever platform. As you scroll, they can generate the entire world that doesn't exist for you with the news, with the fictional people, with the fictional videos. Everything can be fake. And if you never leave your room, then you can be convinced that some world is real, which doesn't exist. So you have to walk outside, and maybe even some reality outside in nearby you becomes fake if you start using too much technology, So that's when will be always a distinction of those who want to pay for data, the true data, and verify everything. And that's when Web3 always will be very valuable. So in the institutional aspect, for the retail users, I think usually you get that. And this is very, very vague thing to capture, that the retail user very often gets lower price for the data that they consume if the providers of data can decrease the cost of insurance of what they provide them, kind of a cost of operations. So as long as Web3 decreases the operational costs or the cost of insurance, they decrease the risk of the data provider, then the consumer actually chooses your solution over other solutions. And sometimes users will ask about privacy and decentralization, but decentralization maybe not so often you'll hear it from retail, but for privacy you do. I talked about it a lot recently because you hear people saying, "Oh, nobody cares about privacy." And then I was in Milan this year, and I was on a taxi and I saw a huge billboard in Milan that was from Apple that said Safari privacy. And I thought, there's this large international company that did lots of marketing analysis of what people want to pay for. And they deliver products that have to convince people to buy those products. And they decided that the privacy will be the one word that will place on the largest billboard in a financial district of Milan. So users must be asking about it, or they might be wanting it, but maybe not talking about it, which means they want to pay. And that's when they may ask for Web3 solutions. And with AI, we can imagine crazy stories with AI actually knowing everything about you, and the privacy gets totally compromised.
You mentioned coordination layer, like Ethereum as a coordination layer of AI agents. So do you have like some new standards like related to this part?
Yeah, so we have ERC 8004, we have X402. The ERC 8004 that comes from Ethereum, like this is ERC is Ethereum standard. X402 is a more general term. And they're all built on top of some other standards related to like MCP and A2A and ACP protocol. So like you have agentic commerce protocol, agent-to-agent interactions. X402 is request for payment. This is for agents to actually, or not even agents, but like through the HTTP protocol to request for payment and verifying it on blockchain. And ERC 8004 is for agents to be able to use the trustlessness from the blockchain, so the blockchain trust, ambient trust, on top of the protocols like A2A that assume that the agents trust each other, that they can verify identity through the traditional methods. Yeah. So the trustless definition of standards, ERC 8004 defines of how agents can announce their identity, how they can register, how they can announce the services they provide, how they can verify claims about each other, how they can verify reputation of other agents, and how they can validate the work executed by other agents by just asking external off-chain validators to rerun some execution and confirm the results. So all of those come together to facilitate agents either representing us, so we can delegate identity to agents and so just work as a tool for me, the same way as I use computer, and computer kind of represents me and uses my identity, but also agents that are autonomous as like, or representing some accounts that are deployed on chain.
Yeah. I think like half a year ago, I didn't buy the the narrative like AI can work with the Ethereum, but until I saw like ERC 8004, I can see it's a good start. So we can register our AI agent on chain to like provide the reputation and the validation.
Lots of top people that work on agents participated and helped with that standard. And wouldn't be surprised if it evolves further and even new standards emerge. But it's already a good start also for people to start building toolings around it. So you see people launching dashboards, running first implementations of ERC 8004, starting deploying agents that follow these rules. Those are some most exciting moments. Lots of startup opportunities, lots of opportunities to build. I think we needed that on Ethereum. In the past we would have whatever was driving people crazy on Ethereum in the past, the tokens, the NFTs, and so on. And now it seems that agents is the way to go.
I saw there's a chaos chain and agentic governance, looks like very interesting early this year. So where are they now, and what's the hypothesis are you testing?
Yeah, so this is coming back to my explorations at Nethermind. So together with the team, we started talking about agentic governance. What would happen if you think that slowly the core developers get partially replaced by agents, not like fully replaced by agents or like by AI. And it was just following the observation that in all of our daily work, we start asking LLMs, like AI chats, to give us some hints, to have a discussion with what they think, what they extracted from the data sets. And it defines our decision process. And then we understand that the training of the model may actually skew our decisions in some direction. So there are some risks of like how do you influence the general opinion based on the model that you provide, the one that is leading. And then when you observe core developers that are asking those questions, like, what should I do in this case? Is it right approach? Is it wrong approach? Still, the core developers will have their own judgment and will just use it as a tool. But it means that maybe 5% of their thinking got skewed in some direction. Maybe over time, maybe it's like 10%. The better the LLMs will be, the higher that percentage should be. The more of the core devs will think like, oh, I don't have experience in that area yet, so maybe here I'll rely on what I read. and I verified briefly, but I trust it, and maybe a little perfectly answered. Like you hear now about some of the PhD level research in some areas. Sometimes like the solutions that come from the AI. So then you think how it goes even further. That at some point the governance, like the social consensus layer, the deciding where the protocol goes, becomes how many proposals you can generate with AI and how much attention you can give to those proposals. And then the proposals and the attention to proposals is like what core devs do nowadays. They work for months on research and proposals. They propose something, and then the other core devs are verifying whether it makes sense, and they start debating. And now if you think that AI starts generating those proposals, then there might be so many of them that you need AI to verify those proposals. And it becomes almost like a proof of work level of searching for the ideas and verifying the ideas. And when you find a good idea, then you actually can push the protocol in that direction. And you can keep filtering your own ideas that you find based on which direction you want to go to. Yeah. And never publicize the ideas that don't push you in the direction that you want to go to, and publicize the other ones. So suddenly you have the proof of work like governance of the social consensus. And then if you really extrapolate it and you think that it gets faster and faster, and like how often you can generate ideas and how high quality the ideas are, then it means that you can also introduce changes much faster. And almost you go to extreme where the changes happen from block to block to block to block. And the social consensus almost becomes like part of the validation and voting. From this imagination of how chaotic the system is, when we started talking about Chaos Chain. And we started talking about it like the beginning of this year, or maybe end of last year. We made some presentations in the Bay Area on the topic, and within Nethermind we started a team to explore it, and the team is spinning out from Nethermind to build that. But also like the idea is split into two directions, two branches. I think Chaos Chain nowadays, the team is building a bit of exploration of the agentic. This is like a ERC 8004. So you can think of it as like getting attention, thinking about the general agentic governance, and pivoting a bit into things that at the moment make perfect sense and can be a base for building further. And I think they go towards the governance, but they also talk a lot about what stems from the research from the Hatu team and the Vital Labs, where they look at the attribution of work of agents. So when the agents collaborate, how they decide between themselves, what are the reward functions that are based on attribution of the result, which is related a bit to this like proof of work. So I think this is the direction of Chaos Chain team. While Nethermind continues with a strictly like a DAO governance model, which is more related to the agents supporting the DAO decisions, because we think that the DAO participation is very similar to core development. Because if you're in the DAO of like the council that decides on the allocation of resources and verification of technical concepts that are proposed for example, L2s, this is a bit of what core developers do. They verify the quality of proposals, and they decide whether to contribute to this proposal and implement it, which is like similar to allocating capital. Yeah. So when you start with the DAO participation, then there are a few more steps, like the milestones. When you have the agents that start writing proposals on whatever ETH research forum, the agents that start writing EIPs, or maybe first starts commenting on the existing EIPs and finding issues, but then writing EIPs, all the way to the agent that actually is capable of joining all core devs call without a video, and maybe write in the chat about the proposals. Further to the agent that actually joins with a video and starts talking and commenting on their proposals, or even proposing and defending and championing their own solutions. And the thing is, it feels very natural progression. There's no magic there. If you understand how AI works nowadays, like you could build an agent like this, it needs to go there like technologically, and requires a lot of expertise in core development. So that's why we thought that at Nethermind it was a very, very good place to start building it.
Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting. And I can see this is the best period to build some experimental initiatives like this one and many things. So the final question will be for builders. So how will Ethereum Foundation to support and coordinate this direction globally? What are any upcoming plans you can share?
So we started the AI team, decentralized AI team. So Davide Krapis runs the team, and that was probably around 2 months ago, and already they have this fantastic effects of publishing ERC 8004 and getting lots of attention to it and getting some announcements with Google, Cloudflare, Coinbase, at least being mentioned as a foundation coordinating those agentic payment solutions. There's lots of attention to Ethereum and Ethereum standards because of that, like how you can run agents and run dashboards and registrations. I'm absolutely sure that over the last 2 months, like there's already a few stealth startups that are building something related to ERC 8004. And so this is definitely what we wanted to show. And this was one of the big asks from many people about the foundation to deliver the canvas for building the next cool thing that will be applications driving. At the same time, I think that many VCs are still skeptical about agents because the last few months were a bit depressed on agentic AI and blockchain. But I think it'll be coming back. So
yeah.
I think that the AI team will have some more surprises and ideas coming in. The team will grow, not too much. Like we want to continue being just coordinators, not to deliver applications, but to build the standards for the applications to be built on top of.
Yeah. We also have a education initiative received a special support from DI team, so they are really nice. So if you are working on this direction, feel free to reach out to them. So they will respond quickly and provide some support you need, right?
Well, I remember there's also like they run some hackathons together with the major AI projects, so agentic AI projects. And I think we'll want to be very active in connecting here, like the Bay Area region in China, well, in Shanghai, Hangzhou, and the Bay Area with Hong Kong, to connect the open source AI builders and embodied AI builders with the builders and startup founders in other parts of the world. So I feel there might be a lot of great solutions that will come from coordination between the different regions.
That's leading me to the next question. So because you already know, like in China, we have many open source AI models. We have many AI developers, engineers. So what contributions would you like to see from like Chinese speaking Ethereum community for now?
I think that what we hear here is that it will be great if there is lots of collaborations between Hong Kong and mainland China on building startups together. There is some contributions like looking how to connect with whatever really suits the policy and goals here. So I think that cross-border payments are coming into consideration, and then this gets elevated to maybe agentic payments, and then you look at open source models here and how they can be connected with any solutions that are globally available. Probably a lot of founders in the West are looking at the embodied AI solutions in collaboration with the Chinese engineers. So this most likely will be the way to go, like saying, look, we understand what happens here in robotics in open source AI, and let's connect and let's build together.
Yeah.
Or ideally, like the full solutions here. Obviously, like some aspect of it can be coordination across the regions, and I think this supports the global neutral aspect of Ethereum, but there's full capacity here to build very successful projects.
Yeah, cool. I think that there are a lot of things to do, so feel free to join the community to discuss further, explore more initiatives, and work on some actual things, right? All right, so we are getting close to the end of our call, so let's wrap up with some quick questions. So first one, do you read a book?
I rarely nowadays manage to like finish the book from the beginning till the end because of lack of time. I started doing a bit like buying a book and then reviewing it, kind of like checking what it's about, then going to LLMs and tell me what this book was about, why it was so critical, why it was so important, what were the major insights, and I maybe reviewing and matching some style of the book and some pages. So I spent some time in the last months on, like it was more like a few months ago, like Santa Fe Institute and the complex systems, and I think I was reading The Origins of Order by Kaufman, and this was because I was trying to understand better the natural like emergence of hierarchical structure between L1s, L2s, like regional chains. Nowadays I think much of my reading is the exploration of what LLMs can answer in the question on particular topics and verifying it with the sources. But reading the entire books is more rare. I got a very nice gift recently of the book called Babette's Feast from Bastian at the Foundation. So he knows that I liked the movie, and he gave me the book. So I carried it with me, and I hope that I'll read it very soon.
So you're working a lot on a lot of things, but you stay energized. So I wonder, like, what's your best practice for sleeping, like training, diet, and scheduling?
That's definitely not a question for me. I totally don't feel like a role model here, because there's no schedule. There's just rushing with different time zones, not sleeping properly, and not having any rules to how I arrange time, and just rushing and doing first thing that's possible. I had some minor rules that helped me over time, over years. Like I had no meetings Fridays. And then sometimes I end up with meetings. So it helps me with like traveling and having the full day of focus on, even if some people sneak in some meetings, like 1 or 2 on Fridays. Usually most of my Fridays are free, which means about it's like makes Monday to Thursday like extremely packed usually. The other things are, this is like very simple hint for many people, is they like to keep the meetings in Google Calendar or whatever you use to end like 5 or 10 minutes earlier. Then you have so much less stress between the meetings when you have 5 minutes between the meetings. So this is the scheduling hint, and this one is I advise everyone to do it, because I was reading specific research on this. Like this shows how much the stress level falls if you have this 5 minutes guarantee. People will overrun anyway, but somehow now they look that it's like, finishes 55 past, we can overrun a bit, and they overrun like 3 to 5 minutes, but you just don't care. If you have like meeting after meeting and people overrun, then you're always late and you start being super stressed, and you don't have time to like just take notes after, prepare for the next meeting.
Yeah, so you traveled a lot. So do you have like time differences, like issues or skills?
Not much. Yeah, because it's like when your schedule is that you don't sleep regularly, then you kind of maybe you're just simply jet lagged all the time. So then you don't notice when you travel.
Okay.
And I don't jump between continents that much, because I travel almost like one direction only all the time. Like people very often like fly somewhere then go back, right? You go for the conference and you go back, and then sometimes they go to another continent, 1 week later they go back, and you have like these 2 sleep adjustments. I move gradually in one direction usually.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. I got time differences issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I think we are done with today's talk, and thank you, Tomasz, for joining us today, and welcome to Shanghai. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. 欢迎大家2023年多关注ETHPanda，一起认识以太坊。
Cool. Yeah.